Hey, you guys, Erin here, back with another moon update for you. We are having a super moon, a full super moon in the sign of Aquarius coming up on August 11th. This takes place at 6:35 p.m. Pacific time. So for those of you over in the UK or other time zones, this might be taking place on August 12th for you. So as for any full moon, this is the peak of a growth cycle. Okay, this growth cycle that began approximately 6 months ago when we had a new moon in the sign of Aquarius. So over these last 6 months, everybody on Earth as a collective, we've all experienced this lunar Aquarian growth over the last 6 months. As soon as this full moon peaks, then it will start to wane. It will start to subside until we have another new moon in the sign of Aquarius, which will be approximately 6 months from now. So if you like to have some sort of a, full moon ceremony, anything like that, this is a time to honor this growth, the Aquarian growth, but then also be thinking about what hasn't worked for you. Maybe you've been trying to build, a recognized, I don't know, YouTube channel or social media site or something like that. What has worked for you, keep rolling with that. What hasn't worked for you, this is the time to start letting that stuff go. Okay. Now, again, we all experience this as a collective, but it's also very, very unique to each and every one of us, very much depending on where the sign of Aquarius comes through your natal chart, which house in your natal chart, this very specifically is at 19 degrees Aquarius. So, whether you're using Placidus or whole sign, and personally, I really have adapted into using a whole sign house system when it comes to these moon transits. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, that's totally fine. But regardless, if you want to go look on your natal chart to see what slice of pie you see the symbol for the sign of Aquarius is, which house, when I say slice of pie, those are the houses. You want to see what that house represents. Okay. I'll show you this a little bit more in detail later on for those of you who want to know what I'm talking about, because what a difference it makes when we're working with our natal chart. When we start with the new moon, we see it's coming through, this full moon comes through my third house, which is the house of communication and sharing information. It's also the house of siblings. And of course, I have two siblings who are Aquariuses. Now, it makes all the sense in the world to me that this energy comes through my house of communication, because I want to share all this information that has to do with the sign of Aquarius. It's very, revolutionary energy. I like keeping up with the changing times. That's very Aquarius energy. For you, it might be coming through your first house, which would be, if you're Aquarius rising, this is a big one for you. This is your house of self. Okay. How have you grown in the ways of yourself over the last 6 months? Coming through your house of relationships, house of career, house of money, house of karma. There's all these different areas of your life that this could be coming through, and we can fine tune what it is we're trying to manifest and work with the moon magic if we can start to get to know our natal chart. Okay, enough of that rant. So the sign of Aquarius, well, it's very appropriately represented by the water bearer. And because of that, people tend to think that it's a water sign, but it's not. It's an air sign. Now, in astrology, water is associated with emotions. Air is associated with intellect. Now, what this magical water bearer does is it's got the water, and it transmutes that water from emotions into information. And then it pours the water out. Water always finds its level and is distributed evenly. Okay, so it pours that information out for all of humanity. This is also the sign of humanitarianism. Okay, so it's this sign of information, pouring out information. Here we are going into the age of Aquarius, just getting bombarded with information from every which direction, right? This is also the sign of technology. It is ruled by Saturn and Uranus. In ancient astrology, it's only ruled by Saturn. Personally, to me, it makes way more sense that Uranus is involved here. Saturn is strict, disciplined, which Aquarius can be. It's the fixed air sign. It can definitely be disciplined, but that Uranus energy is revolutionary. And that's where this humanitarian energy comes in. This is the sign of the people for the people. But Uranus is also very electrical. This energy is very, very kind of like spasmodic. But that's what gives it the revolutionary twist. This energy is quite rebellious. Okay. It's actually a little like anti-establishment. It's against status quo. But you know what else is great about this sign of Aquarius is that it's like this sign of everybody kind of doing something in a group, but in their own unique way. Like everybody's their own totally unique individual, but they can do things in groups. And we're seeing this unfold. We're also seeing a huge major divide between people, but that's due to other things that are going on. But just think about this. How have you grown in the ways of an Aquarius? Personally, the number one keyword that stands out to me with Aquarius is genius, intellect, taking things to a higher level of truth, detaching from the emotions to understand it from an intellectual perspective. And we're seeing that, and it's happening very slowly, but for sure people are starting to realize that there's some things in the world that are different than what we've been told. Okay. And that's this Aquarius energy. If you're capable of detaching from the emotional attachment, the sign of Aquarius is very much about detachment. If you can detach from those emotions, again, for the purpose of just understanding things from a vibration of truth or higher level of understanding, that's the Aquarius energy. How have you grown in these ways? Okay. Again, it can also have to do with sharing information, because it's this energy of pouring out the information. You know, maybe you've been trying to share information through a social media site or something like that. What's worked for you and what hasn't? What has worked for you, this is the peak of the growth cycle. This is your time to honor that. What hasn't, maybe there's certain things that you're sharing or posting or something that, you know, doesn't really tend to get recognition. Time to wean that stuff out. We don't need that anymore. It's time to let that stuff dissipate. So I hope that makes sense. Now, if you want to understand where this comes through your natal chart, please do schedule an astrology reading. Go to my website. And on my website, you'll see a little menu bar at the top. You click on that and it'll say book online, and you can schedule straight through my website. Even, you know, if you just do a 30-minute reading, I can still show you, you get the recording, everything. It's a video call and everything is recorded. You'll receive the recording, and in that recording, you'll be able to go through and see which area of your life every single one of these new moons and full moons come through. Okay, so let's go ahead and share the screen here, pull up this Aquarius full moon. Okay, so for those of you who are new to my recordings, I work with geocentric Western astrology. Okay, now with that said, we put Earth in the middle here. Here's us right in the middle of this thing. And these guys right here, these symbols towards the outside of the wheel, they are the celestial bodies. Like here's the moon, here's Saturn, here's Neptune, here's Jupiter, here's Chiron. Okay. And that's where they will be around us in the tropical zodiac at the time of this full moon. If we go in the wheel a little way, these are the symbols for the zodiac signs that they will be beaming through. And I better make something clear here real quick. So this is based on my location, Santa Cruz, California. Okay. Now here's the moon right here at 19 degrees. Here's the symbol for Aquarius, 19 degrees Aquarius, and 21 minutes is the exact peak of this full moon. Now it's going to be 19 degrees Aquarius for everybody on Earth, but it could be anywhere else on this wheel. Any of these little characters could be at any other point in the wheel, depending on your location, but they will be in the degree and the sign, the same degree and same sign for everybody. Okay, so, and by the way, this is what I'm talking about, these houses. These are the houses. You look to see in your natal chart where this symbol, the symbol for Aquarius, is these wiggly lines. And a lot of people think that those are the waves of water from the water bearer pouring out the water. But everything that I've read about always goes back to, this is like the electrical waves, okay? This is the radio waves. That's the information being poured out. So look for where that symbol is in your natal chart. See which house it comes through, these things that look like a slice of pie. See which house it comes through. Look at the number on that house, and then see what that house represents, okay? Because that's how you can manifest really your dreams into reality, is looking at where this stuff comes into fruition into your life, and we can flow with it with a lot more ease and grace. Okay, so here's the moon at 19 degrees Aquarius. This puts us in something called the second decan of the Aquarius season, which actually gives a little twist of Gemini energy. So that's very much about communication, but it's also a little spunky. This is quite the revolutionary times for sure, especially because of these other things that we've got going on. But something, and keep in mind, this is super moons. This is strong energy. The sign of Aquarius is about electricity. It's very much about technology. Okay. This, in fact, people who have, especially like their moon in Aquarius, it can happen too with the rising sign and the sun, but these people are more sensitive to electromagnetic fields, the dangers of electromagnetic fields. When we have a full moon in Aquarius, it's really not in our best interest to be sitting in front of these devices that are dangerous to us. You know, of course, as you guys know, I have all kinds of protection in front of me in every which direction and not only that, but I've got a thing on my screen to help take the blue light out. But regardless, we're still getting zapped by, you know, dangerous EMFs when we're on these devices. And that becomes amplified when we're having a full moon in Aquarius. So be mindful of that. In fact, if you can, I would ideally, which is a total Aquarian thing, to not be on our device really from like I would say even well, it depends on where you are in the world, around maybe late August 9th, all the way to August 13th, if you can. Most people are like, yeah, right, I can't, you know, most people depend on their devices for their work and whatnot, but just at least be mindful of it while the moon transits through the sign of Aquarius, especially because she's full. That's very intense. Okay, well, this right here is Saturn right next to the moon. So this is one of Aquarius's rulers, which helps the situation a little bit. But let me break this down. So Saturn, he's the rule maker. He's all about discipline and hard work and responsibilities, and he constricts, and he's like the ruler of chronic disease because he rules time, and he's slow, and he's an old man type of energy. And it's restrictive, this Saturn energy, and it's right next to this super moon. Okay, so there's a lot going on to kind of go with what I'm about to say. We've got a ton of squares. We've got a T square going on. We've got a grand cross going on. A lot of stuff that kind of puts a lot of tension in, and that Saturn being right next to the moon can kind of create some tension. It might feel like you know, what you're trying to do, like I've been working towards fulfilling this goal and I'm so close to doing it, but it's being restricted. That definitely could be a situation for a lot of people right now, but just keep that in mind. One thing that Saturn can do is help to keep us a little grounded with this full moon, but it can also, depending on everybody's own natal chart, there can also be some aggressive energies that come out during this full moon. Oof. Okay. All right. Now, let's talk about the sun over here. I really hope everybody's enjoying Leo season. It really, to me, this is like my favorite time of year because Leo season is summertime and it's warm and it's at least, you know, for those of us in the northern latitude, but it's this time of year of creativity, and the sun works so comfortably in the sign of Leo because it rules it. The sun is like, oh, I'm in my own home. I get to be creative here. I get to be playful here. I get to take on leadership roles here. And it's just such a vibrant time of year. So I really hope you guys are all enjoying the Leo energy going on here. But now, you know, here's the sun at 19 degrees Leo, and here's the moon at 19 degrees Aquarius. That's what happens every time we have a full moon. The sun and moon are at opposite sides of the zodiac. Okay. That to me, it's the sun and the moon. The sun is the father, the moon is the mother in Western astrology. They're looking at each other, they're facing each other, and they're honoring this growth. Okay. But it also puts a strong polarity on. There is an intense amount of magnetism at the time of this full moon, not only because it's the full moon conjunct Saturn and being a super moon opposing the sun, but then we've got these squares. When it's talking about square, I mean, you can see there's a square box in the middle of the chart here. But one square is one red line that goes from here to here. It's a 90-degree angle. All this stuff is calculated through geometry. Okay. So we have a lot of these squares, a lot of them, and they create tension in and of themselves, almost like an aggressive tension. And here's the sun and the moon squaring the nodes, which the nodes are, okay, let's talk about the nodes for a minute. If you haven't seen my videos, hopefully you can follow along here. I just don't want to spend too much time talking about it because I've already talked about it so much. This is the north node where energy comes into Earth. This is the south node where energy leaves Earth. They are in the most magnetic signs, okay, all the way until the end of July of next year. It is creating so much intense energy, and it has the north node going to the sign of Taurus is all about money. It's all about, you know, that it's obviously like an insane, you know, inflation thing going on. Literally just, it makes so much sense to me. It could not make better sense. Personally, as I've mentioned before, I really thought crypto would go up by this point. I still really do think it's going to go up, but there's too much other tension. There's too much other just kind of blockages going on, I guess we'll put it that way. But this sign of Taurus is not only about money, it's also about Earth. It's about agriculture. It's about our farms. And look at what's happening to our farms. There's all this crazy tension and abrupt energy going on. That's because the north node is right next to Uranus. And the south node in Scorpio, it has so much magnetism here. The south node is where energy goes out. The sign of Scorpio rules the part of the body where things go out, where we get rid of stuff in our body, okay? The sign of Taurus, where the north node is, that rules the part of the body where food goes in. The north and the south node work with immense amount of strength and magnetism in these zodiac signs, and it's creating a lot of tension. Personally, I think the south node in Scorpio is kind of helping to pull out some of the dark forces, but it's like waves. It's coming in waves. But regardless, these are incredibly magnetic energies. I mean, literally magnetic. That's what's going on around us is magnetism. And it's like the volume is turned up maximum right now, because not only are these the north and south node going through Taurus and Scorpio, but because they're squaring the sun and the moon. This is like, it's a lot of tension. Now, for some people, this might be absolutely magnificent. I've got a couple clients who have their own personal income has almost doubled because the sign of Taurus is ruling their second house. But for some other people, this is tragic. People are really, really having a hard time. And I see that and I know it and I feel it. And if it wasn't for astrology, I probably would be too. But it just helps me a lot to be able to look at things from this, you know, higher level of truth. By the way, the sign of Aquarius, out of all the zodiac signs, is the most associated with astrology. Pisces and Aquarius both are very much associated with astrological forces. So if you're somebody who's interested in astrology, now is a good time to really amp up those studies. And not only that, but honor your growth with that type of energy. Okay, what else we got going on? Let's talk about some good stuff here. This right here is Mercury. We'll be going through Virgo, which is lovely and not in retrograde. Wahoo! Okay, Mercury rules what we're consciously focusing on. Also has a lot to do with our communication. Mercury is the messenger of the gods, but he really has a lot to do with our mind, what's going on in our brain, that sort of thing, and what we're consciously paying attention to. Well, the sign of Virgo not only is ruled by Mercury, so Mercury is in his own home and working beautifully here, but also the sign of Virgo is really good at paying attention to detail. And not only that, but Mercury is actually really well aspected, making some opportunistic and also some harmonious connections with things in the chart here. So this could be a really good time for business meetings, this full moon. But keep in mind that if you are to have, and I talk about business meetings because I work with a lot of business people and they're always asking me, when should I have a business meeting? And often it's, you know, I need to have a business meeting within a couple of days. And sometimes it's not a good idea, and sometimes it is. And this time looks like it might be. However, when we have a full moon, we become more sensitive to each other's emotions. We tend to feel each other more. We tend to like kind of bounce our emotions bounce off of each other more. So keep that in mind. However, communication skills could be at a peak for this full moon. Okay, now also I love Venus and Leo. Personally, I love this placement because people who are born with Venus and Leo, it's such a, Venus rules what we're attracted to. And Leo is such a courageous energy that Venus and Leo, people can be the kind of person that just comes up and puts their arm around the person they like and they're courageous about it. It's a lovely energy, but it's also, this is making Venus a little hot. This could be either good or bad for relationships, depending on your guys' natal charts, but just keep that in mind. The ruler of romance is getting heated up. She's 0 degrees Leo for this full moon. So that's kind of hot, but all right, let's see here. What else should we talk about? I mean, I've spent so much time talking about some of these slower moving celestial bodies. I don't want to go into that much depth. Let's talk about quickly here. Here's Mars finishing up in Taurus. Okay. Now we had this very intense conjunction between the North Node, Uranus, and Mars. Remember, North Node is where energy comes in. Uranus is revolutionary, electrical, and spasmodic, and Mars is aggressive. Okay. In fact, at the time I'm making this video, that they're all very close together, and there's definitely been some a lot of tension going on based off of this and energy coming in, but that it's not going to be done. This energy is literally going to unfold really for the whole rest of the year and beyond that, all the way until the North Node moves into Aries next July. But regardless, a lot of I'll leave it at this, a lot of energy around money, finances, banking, and also agriculture, our farms, our farm animals, all sorts of things like that. There's a lot of energy kind of going into that, and some of it's not so good. But Mars, he is just about to finish up in this Taurus energy, which I think he's going to enjoy. Mars wants to go fast. He wants to be aggressive. Mars, he's the action, physical drive, energy that's coming from up there. And Taurus wants to go slow and be patient. And Mars is like, I can't get through fast enough. But what's going to happen next year is Mars is going to go into Gemini and be there for 7 months. For those of you who, I mean, I get it, why that wouldn't be a big deal to some people, but it is to astrologers. Mars going through Gemini for 7 months is a big deal. He's going to move forward, and then he's going to retrograde back, and then he's going to move forward again. I think that goes all the way until like March of next year or something absurd. But Gemini is this very, it's about duality. It's, wants to go this direction and this direction at the same time. When Mars is going through there can be this, like, it could be tough to stay on track with our goals. That's coming up very shortly after this full moon. So that's something to be mindful of. Just pay attention to that. Focus on that. Stay with your goals. Number one thing, I'm going to leave this there. Number one thing to focus on for this full moon is your Aquarian growth. How have you grown in the ways of an Aquarius? But then also think about what you want to let go of with that energy. But keep in mind, this energy is highly electrical, highly spasmodic. It is so crucially important that we stay grounded, each and every one of us. For some people, that comes a lot more naturally. For some people, it doesn't. If you don't have any earth in your natal chart, then holy smokes, please be touching earth with your bare feet for at least 10 minutes minimum a day, but more like an hour would be ideal. Okay, now let's see. So Aquarius rules our electrical body. It's like Aquarius and Leo are opposite each other. As I showed you, the sun is in Leo, the moon is in Aquarius for this full moon. They're opposite each other. And there's always this very strong polarity between the signs that are opposing. Okay. Leo rules the heart. And there's, what is it? It's the, oh darn, I hope it comes to me. Heart math has been able to scientifically prove the electric fields coming out of our heart. That's Aquarius. That's the Aquarius energy. A lot of Chinese medical practitioners know what I'm talking about when I talk about the electrical body. It's not so much talked about in Western medicine these days, but it's important. And thank God for this Aquarius energy this age of Aquarius, bringing this into our reality. Now, Aquarius also rules like the calves, all the way down to the ankles. So it's a good idea to just pay a little extra attention to these parts of our body when we, especially when we have a full moon in the sign of Aquarius. So important that we keep ourselves safe from the electromagnetic fields, surrounding us, and, all those smart meters and, the Wi-Fi towers and all kinds of crazy stuff like that. If you can, just avoid being around that stuff at the time of this full moon, because that will mess with your electrical field. Okay. Now, also some stones to mention here. The dedicated zodiacal birthstone for Aquarius is amethyst, which is a beautiful stone. And it's so suiting to the Aquarius energy because it's kind of like futuristic looking. It's kind of, it can project people into the future. It can actually even help people foresee into the future. Aquamarine, geez, Aaron. Amethyst is a very, very powerful stone. And this is part of the reason why. It is an amplifier, so that's something to be careful about. Okay, so I'm holding this between my computer and myself. This is amplifying the computer's energy. That I don't necessarily want that. It's even worse when you've got just clear crystal quartz. That's purely an amplifier. Why I love amethyst so much is because the color, the shade of color, does provide a little protection from that. I still don't want to just, I'm showing you guys this crystal, but I wouldn't want to stand here and, I wouldn't want to put this between myself and my phone, that sort of thing, because it will amplify. But the purple color actually also does provide a little protection. Okay. If you're really seeking protection, then I would say something like black tourmaline. Using these two together, that's a lot better of an idea. But it still does provide protection really from the unwanted energies. And the darker purple it is, the more protection it's going to provide. But this, it can definitely bring in a strong intuition with using an amethyst in your full moon ceremony. Okay, now also one of my favorites right here, this is angelite or angelite. Okay, it's a beautiful, like, baby blue stone that's really peaceful, a really good stone for bringing peace to your heart. Okay, now this next stone I'm going to mention here. What did I do with it? Oh, here it is. Hematite. Okay, hematite, which this is a raw hematite. A lot of people will have polished hematite. That is much more. This is a very Aquarian stone. This is very much like a futuristic, sort of all about technology stone, very Aquarius energy, using like these together, because there's all this electricity sort of energy going on. And if we're only using the angelite, which is peaceful, that sort of thing, or only using the amethyst, we want something that's going to ground us out. We want something that's going to keep us connected to earth and reality and practicality. So really using like a combination. I will leave a full extensive list of Aquarius stones in the description section or the comment section, depending on where you're seeing this recording. But most importantly, just keep in mind that the darker stones are going to provide a little more protection during the time of this. Well, really anytime, but with all these zappy energies going around, it's a really good idea to have a darker stone around. But also, and what I do for those, I always forget that not everybody's seen my videos before. For those of you who are new to my recordings, I take these stones and I write in my journal. For an example, this full moon, I'm going to write in my journal. I am grateful for the Aquarian growth that I've experienced through my third house. And I'll break all that down, sharing information, communication, tapping into the higher learning, detaching from emotions, so on and so forth. What do I want to let go of? And then I take that journal and I put it on a windowsill, and I take my stones and I put them on top of the journal, because sometimes without knowing for sure, some of these stones might not be in our best interest to be wearing on our body. Like if you already have a ton of Aquarius energy in your natal chart, you might not want to walk around wearing an amethyst all the time because you already vibrate at that level and you might be kind of overdoing it. Another really good stone for kind of balancing all this out would be turquoise. Turquoise is a really good one, and it also resonates pretty well with that Aquarius energy, but that's kind of like a just a safe all around stone. I don't think there's anybody out there that turquoise is going to, create challenges for their physical body. Okay, I think I covered everything. If you would like to schedule an astrology reading, again, please do go to my website, erinwageastrology.com. If you're on a phone, there will be a little menu bar. I think there's 3 lines, and you click there. Drop down menu pops up and it'll say book online, and you can schedule straight through my reading through my website. And if you don't see anything that is convenient for you in that calendar, then you can email me at erinwageastrology@gmail.com. If you're in another time zone and things are just not, because I generally keep my business hours between 11 a.m. and 7 p.m. And for some people that just doesn't work. So I can be flexible with those hours. Just send me an email and we'll work something out from there. Okay, you guys, until next time, namaste to all of you.